Hi, and welcome to the seventh module of Machine Learning and Data Science course. So it's been a while, but I was actually engaged up with other work. So for today, we are going to be discussing K-means clustering. So just to get a little recap of what we have already done so far. So we have discussed all these topics that are related to very basics of machine learning and data science, a little bit on how to work with data, how to collect them and everything. And then when we jump to machine learning topics, an important topic that we discussed was the classification of machine learning problem, and that was basically into supervised and unsupervised. Then there was other category called as reinforcement or self-supervised learning and all these things, but basically it was mostly supervised and unsupervised learning. So by far we have seen linear regression, k-means and naive bayes. All these actually are supervised learning problems where we are given the data as well as we are given the result for the data, or the predictor class, let's just say, for the data, so that we can directly train the model based on the data uh, given the input as well as the output. But what if there is no output? Means the output is not known. So let's just suppose, which actually is a real world case or condition, is that there's a numerous amount of data now called as big data as well, like GBs, TBs, and whatnot, right? So this huge amount of data, if for some particular application, let's just say, if someone starts to sit and annotate all that data, for example, let's say banknotes. So if there are uh, not just if, there actually are lakhs and crores of banknotes, right? So all these millions and billions of banknotes, if someone starts to just sit around and take all of that data, and based on that data starts to actually annotate if the note was real or fake, depending on that, just think how much time it will take for the person to uh, go ahead and get the task done, right? So these kind of problems, these real life problems, cannot actually be mapped into a supervised learning domain. Rather, they are actually of unsupervised learning and domain. And for this, there's a famous algorithm known as k-means clustering. Now where does this k-means clustering works? So basically what we'll see in a while what the idea of k-means clustering is. But when dependence of the output or dependence of the classification of data depends on very less number of dependent variable, let's just say, or let's just say that they are of less dimensional in nature, then we can use k-means clustering to classify that data into different classes. So let's just go ahead and start with the theory part of it. Then we'll see a code implementation, and we'll compare the code implementation with library functions and all that. So now we again think of it as a graph where we have let's say points like whatever, like this, and there's another group of points that are like this. Okay, no, let's not do that right now. Let's just say that there are just few points, right? So there are few points lying like this, and then there are few points that lie here somewhere. Okay, so now what we do is that we go ahead and we choose three random points out of all these existing points. So let's just say we chose this, and then we chose this point. So we chose these three random points. What we do now is that for each point in the given data, we find distance of each point. Okay, let's change the ink here as well so that it's a bit more clear. So okay, so we find the distance between each of these points, right, and see which one of these is closest. So it's clearly visible that this point is closest, so this actually comes under this group now. not these two, yeah, these two come under one group now. So we go ahead and do this for all the points. So for example, if we are doing this for this point, we find distance between this, we find distance between this. So we basically find the Euclidean distance, and based on that we group all the points on the given in the given data set to each of these clusters. Now when this task gets completed, what we'll find is that we'll basically find that all the points get accumulated in specific clusters. So since it's visible that all these points are close together, I can just go ahead and take the liberty of grouping them together like this. So now these groups are formed. What we do now is that we check if the variance, overall variance of this clustering that we have just done, is it what that variance is. So whatever this variance is, whatever the variance is for this group, means distance with each and every individual point we find. So what basically variance represents is how much every point that belongs to one particular category is far from its mean source or mean point. So here the mean source is this. In another clusters the mean source differ, like as usual, right? So yeah, variance is basically under root whatever that mean point is. Let's just say the mean point is m, then minus each and every point in that group, this squared. So we want to find this, right? So we want to find the standard deviation or the variance, whatever you think is proper. So it won't make that much difference. So what we do is we find this, let's just say it's this much. Then what we do is, to that we add variance of second group, and then we add the variance of the third group, whatever it may be. So this is the current overall variance of all the three clusters, because we initially chose k as 3, right? It was a choice made by us. Algorithm doesn't know how many clusters to form. You have to inform the algorithm how many clusters to form. Now what happens is that since the variance is high, what we do, we keep on iterating over the same data over and over again, and we change these basically we change these mean points, right? So instead of using this point, now what we do is we chose this point, maybe, or maybe even let's just say that we chose this point for this, and we chose now this, and we chose, so it's just a random choice, it can be any of these. So again they will start to form clusters, right? So again when clustering happens, let me just go ahead and erase some things. So now whatever the previous clusters were, it doesn't matter anymore, right? So now what will happen is that new clusters will start to form depending on the distance. So depending on the distance, new cluster will start to form, whatever points may come under whichever cluster. Again what will happen is that whenever a new point is introduced to a cluster, for example if this point comes under this cluster, we'll find the mean of all these points wherever that mean lies, right? Again when a third point is introduced to this cluster, then we'll find the mean of all these 3 points wherever it may lie. Here maybe it lies here. Now when another point is introduced to this cluster, we'll take into account all these points, then find the mean. So mean may shift maybe somewhere towards this direction, or may even shift this direction. Mean may shift upwards, or mean may shift downwards. Whichever direction it shifts, at last we want to find a cluster. So now when we do the iteration again, we may find that the clusters now look something like this. So not exactly like this, because the new yellow point is in this cluster, so maybe it looks something like this, right? So it may happen that it may look like this. So yeah, so it now maybe is looking like this. So again what we'll do is we'll find the variance and we'll see if the variance is more or less. So this time, since it's clearly visible that it should be more, because there's a division between these two clusters, which shouldn't be, because these points seem pretty close together, right? So now what we'll do is that we'll find this variance again, and this time maybe it's more, maybe it's less, we don't know. The algorithm will have to find that out on itself. We have to write the algorithm like that, right? So depending on this, we keep on going until when, until the point where we finally have uh, we finally find a variance which, when compared to last found variance, is almost equal, or is at a distance of maybe a threshold value, right? So example, if I say that 0.01 is my threshold, so the difference between these two variances must be between that threshold only, right? So that is the basic idea of k-means clustering algorithm. So before going into code, let's go ahead and let me explain you one more algorithm that is known as hierarchical clustering, or even it can be both ways. It can be top down as well as bottom up. So what happens is that given a set of points, so example, let's say there are these points, right? So given these set of points, what I can do is I can start to actually group these points, not just separately but in a manner that they overlap. So for example, this looks like this belongs alone, these two are pretty close, then these two look pretty close. Now again, if I go ahead and analyze, I can see that these 3 points look somewhat close as well, right? And now all these points can come under one roof. So what basically happened here is that let's just say all these points are numbered in some, maybe let's just say how many points are there, 5. So 1 2 3 4 and 5. So there are these 5 points, right? So if this was 1, this was 2, this was 3, this was 4, and this was 5, then we said that 1 belongs to its own group, 2 and 3 belong together. Then we said that 1 and 2, 1 2 and 3 belong together. Along with that, 4 and 5 were belonging together as well. Then we said that all these points now belong together, right? So this is basically the idea of hierarchical clustering. If we go from bottom to top, this is known as bottom up approach. If we go from top to down, this is known as top down approach. So that's how hierarchical clustering is done, but we are not going to delve more into hierarchical. We are directly going to look into the code for k-means clustering, so that we can get a better insight of how it is implemented from scratch, as well as how it is actually used, means how it actually is used through a library. So the regular library imports, as we do, numpy and pandas, and again we are taking the same banknote data set. So it actually had this class variable where it was classified as real or fake note. But what we are going to do is that we are going to completely ignore this class variable while training, but while testing we'll use this to verify if we are any good with the data or not. So yeah, we imported the libraries, we read the data, and we can see that there is class, so we'll get rid of the class for the training portion, and we'll separate the class for the testing purposes. So now the actual thing. So implementing this k-means clustering, what I did was I mean, obviously you can find better implementations over the internet, but what I basically did, I took the dimension of data. For example, here the dimension is 1 2 3 and 4, because we are giving 4 variables for input. So yeah, I gave that, I gave a value for k. So I basically gave for k the value 2, because I know the banknotes are real or fake, those are the two classes, so I just gave 2. Actually it may or may not perform that well depending on the data, by just not knowing what to predict, because it doesn't know it has to predict real or fake. It just knows that there is an underlying pattern in this input data. So yeah, it's just going to recognize that, and maybe if you go ahead and give it some value for k like 5 or 10, it may perform better than the value 2 for k, right? So it may be that. So yeah, as I said that said earlier while talking about the theory, so yeah, there can be a threshold value for checking if the variance, if the difference between penultimate and the last variance is below this threshold value or not. If it's below this threshold value, then we are good to go and we can stop the training. So yeah, so what happens is that whenever we give all this data, a class is initial, an object for this class is initialized, and the data is stored in form of, for each value of k, means for all the classes, like if I said k is equal to 2, then there will be two classes. For each one of them I store a mean and I record a variance and initialize it with 0, starting with 0. Right now, whenever I have to predict, I give the data as input. So here we are going to give x as the input. Now what I do is that I store the data, and what I do is I find random whatever, since k was the number that we gave, so k here is 2, so it will find two random points to form as the mean of the clusters or center of the cluster, called as centroids, and just finding out the centroids in these two lines of code. Then you can go both ways. You can either go for number of iterations, so if while I is less than whatever number, or maybe you can stop the training whenever threshold value is reached. So yeah, this is just a simple implementation, so I'm not even comparing and I'm not even going ahead and doing it over and over, means I'm not repeating for different values of k so that I can find a good value of k as well. So it's just a simple task by just arbitrarily giving the k yourself, rather than letting the algorithm decide which value of k is better. So yeah, now when the training happens, for each point in the data, for every single point, every single row, it finds which category or which cluster it belongs to by finding the Euclidean distance, right? So get distance is the function that I use. So in get distance, if you see, it's just adding the squares and then square rooting those. So it finds the distance, and then whichever distance is minimum for where it is. So yeah, here our minimum of distances means whichever distance is minimum out of all, give me the index for that, and that index actually is the value or the name of the cluster. So it may be index 1, index 2, index 3. So yeah, those are the clusters. So since it's just k is equal to 2, so there will be just two classes or two indexes, 0 and 1 indices actually. So yeah, 0 and 1, and that will be our cluster id, and we'll assign this cluster id and store it in an adjoining column. So these four columns were input. Along with that, there's now an adjoining column, not this class variable, but an adjoining column that stores this data, whichever cluster it belongs to, right? So after that, we calculate the mean of the cluster, since the cluster has been modified and point has been introduced. So using this calculate mean function, so what I did was I just basically found the mean of all the clusters at once, because the data wasn't that vast and it wasn't that tough to do. So yeah, it was easier to do. So yeah, that so calculated the mean, and depending on that mean, that updates the information that we initially stored in this k-info dictionary. And after that, the history means the penultimate detail, this k-info is stored in history, and then I update the variance. Whenever I update the variance, we find the new variance, and after that we compare if the last two variance means if the last two variance actually are below threshold or not. So yeah, here I am doing iterations as well as checking if the threshold is reached or not. If the threshold is reached, we'll break the training either way. Otherwise, whenever the number of iterations get exhausted, then we'll stop the training, and then we'll return the data that we actually found. So yeah, just initializing. So let me run this. After that, whenever I initialize the object, and after that just predict it, And after that, whenever I predict it, I just got the last this last column of that, which was actually the class it belonged to, 0 or 1. And so 0 and 1 here basically represent true or false, so we don't have to do anything with the resultant data, modify it in any way. After that, we just plot a confusion matrix whenever the training finishes, and that confusion matrix basically tells us that these 570 plus 270 values were correctly predicted, and 340 and 192 values were false positive and false negatives, right? So the algorithm is not performing that well with k value 2. So let's see if the library function performs any better. So yeah, again here I'm giving the value for k is equal to 2, maximum iterations is 300, whatever the tolerance is 1 is minus 0.4, random state, you don't even have to know much about random state or initialization and all that. So yeah, just again going ahead and predicting and storing this in ykm. Let's see how this one performs. So as you can see, with the thing I coded from scratch and the library function are not even almost, they are performing exactly equally good or bad, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, it's just that the value of k, that is 2 here, isn't a good value for this data. So yeah, that can happen. So you have to experiment with different k. There's a method called as elbow method of analyzing the value of k, through which you can know if the value that you have chosen for k is good enough or not. So yeah, that I'll leave for you to explore. So this basically is a simple algorithm for clustering, and we saw hierarchical clustering as well. So I'll actually uh, I'll actually encourage you to go ahead and check those out, how hierarchical clustering and other clustering methods work. So we'll discuss more on classifying data, or just say that whenever we don't have a label for the data and we want to cluster them or we want to group them, how we can do using other methods like principal component analysis and TSNE. So yeah, let's just end this discussion here, and then you can go ahead and explore the code. It will be on the repository, and the next lecture or the next module will be sooner than later. Bye.